right. Welcome to Daptime, Two Brothers, One Vision. We are back. Before we get started, be sure to like and subscribe and share this with your friends if you like the information and content that we're sharing. We are AJ. I am AJ, and I'm here with my brother Big Dane.
Big Dane. I'm here.
Welcome to the party, brother. Welcome to the party.
Yes,
been looking forward to jumping in to another conversation. It's always good to wrap with you. Before we get started, I know we're all dealing with Corona going on in our communities, and we talked about that last time we got together. How are things there now?
It's escalated a little bit. We've gone from Friday. It wasn't an order, but there was a suggestion to stay in. For everybody to stay in for a certain period of time. And by Monday, there was another government notice, and it's become an order. So it's actually an official government order. They can there's curfews involved. They can enforce it. It's actually a misdemeanor if you're found breaking the order. So that's where we are now. Sheltering in place.
Yikes. Well, it's funny because Governor Newsom out here did the same thing today. Well, we already had the shelter in place, but he notified us that there are going to be some additional restrictions placed.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the full press conference, but I know that there was a lot discussed. He was very appreciative of people who've been adhering, and I think we've done well. At least in the area that I live, I've seen people, moving around pretty responsibly. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what happens in other parts of the state, but something happened to warrant him saying, "Hey, we're going to add additional restrictions because we want to be aggressive in attacking this." So, and it's crazy, man, because I look at the news and it's affecting every area of society. You're looking at farmers who are asking for relief, and all different types of workers. You just see constant stories about different people being impacted by it, in all walks of life. And so I know it's something that is unprecedented for sure.
It is, and what's funny about it is, you remember, if we can go back a little bit, you remember when, like, if you're in kindergarten, first grade, and
Right.
the class is kind of rowdy, and the punishment is, I'm going to take 5 minutes off your recess time, right? So then everybody straightens up, and then there's always 2 or 3 hard heads that keep it going. So then the teacher's like, "It's 2 more minutes." So everybody's like, and then the class turns on those two, and they're like, "Hey, just shut up, just do what she says, so we can go to recess." And that's what this feels like. It's like you have some hard heads. They're just gonna go outside. They're gonna barbecue. They're gonna hang out anyway. And it's like, man, just stay in the house, man, bro, so we can get this over with and get back to life as we knew it. But yeah, it's definitely unprecedented, man. I've never seen anything like this. I don't know that anything like this has ever occurred on U.S. soil. I mean, I'm sure it has, but it's probably been a long, long time. So
yeah, I think it's it has. I don't know that it's certainly not in my lifetime or your lifetime.
right.
Can I think of anything that has been like this? But I'll tell you what stands out to me more than the stories that are, hey, this person now has it, or because I think we all come to every day knowing that, it's still here. We're in the fight. So those of us who are operating responsibly, you kind of expect those stories. What stands out to me are the stories that make you go, even under Corona, we're doing nonsense. So
Mm-hmm.
I saw an article that Tekashi 6ix9ine is being released from prison early
Yeah.
because he has asthma.
Oh.
Now, here's the funny thing. There are 2 things about it that jumped out at me. Number one, I looked at the list of things that he was in prison for,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm like, okay, what does this mean to his sentence?
Hmm.
Then I looked at, well, is he suffering from symptoms? No, has no symptoms whatsoever.
Hmm.
And then I thought about every other prisoner that is locked up who's got asthma or some other condition that makes them high risk. Are they getting the same preferential treatment? Because he's home right now. He's at the crib tonight having dinner,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they're still locked up.
Well, cooperation has its privileges, I guess. I don't know. I mean, for as much air as he spent, talking, I couldn't tell he had asthma the way the way he told on everybody. But I mean, and I'm neither here nor there on that. That's that man's business. But yeah, it's definitely something there. And I think I really do think that's one of those things where if you'll scratch their back, then when the time comes, they'll scratch yours, and that's I think what we're seeing. And I think he was slated to get out sometime this year anyway because he got a significantly reduced sentence due to his cooperation. So I think he was due to get out I don't, later this year or something like that. So yeah, yeah,
It's weird to me, man. Right? Like you see all these kind of moves by institutions, and it can't help. At least in me, it strikes a chord of where the fairness line really keeps getting pushed back.
mhm,
Um, I mean, we're never going to have fair is what you end up with at the end of the day,
right,
and whether you're on the right side or the wrong side, fair is what you got. Now,
absolutely,
I think his story is one example. The other story I saw that was crazy to me, and I didn't go into much detail with it, but universities and academic institutions are saying that if there's any disruption to college football schedule, that financially they're going to suffer significant hardship and its impact to all the other sports. And it couldn't, I couldn't help but think, okay, well, wait a minute. Now, when you talk college football, you're talking about who specifically, right?
right,
You know, so badminton, tennis, golf, swimming, all are going to suffer because the football players can't get out on the field
right.
and do their thing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, that's
and so
crazy.
the universities are crying. And I'm thinking, well, hey, who are your donors? You can't go to your donors and be like, hey, this is a circumstance. They're feeling it. Why can't they bridge that gap? It seems like something to get more money out of either advertisers, corporations, or whoever bankrolls their program.
Yeah, that's definitely a money play. I think it's just crazy to me. That's one thing that's really showing his head during this time is I've learned to follow the money a little bit to try to
Hmm.
get some clearer answers to certain questions of things that are going on. And so
Hmm.
um money just seems to be for as hard of a time as we seem to be going through, and some people use the word recession. I don't know that we're there yet, but the stock market's down, all this is things are going on, unemployment rate is through the roof at this point. um
Hmm.
but it seems like it's raining money from the government. I mean, they put I don't know how many trillion into the stock market. um the money has been these relief checks, once they start flowing, that's another God knows how many million. So I mean, where's you can find the money when you want to find the money. These bailouts
Hmm.
for these banks and these different organizations. And I'm not saying none of it's needed. I'm not saying I have an opinion here nor there on it necessarily at this point, but it's just interesting to me that so much money, and we're talking we're talking trillions of dollars, can be found just like that.
Hmm.
So I have to ask myself, what's really going on that you all are so motivated to pour this kind of money out into these different areas. So whereas we have, Flint hasn't had clean water now for how many years? They're still working on
Exactly.
that. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about.
Well, and that's the thing. So that's a great example, bro, because when you look at that story, and you look at, and I think it was GM was the auto manufacturer who was last there polluting the water with its
Hmm.
waste,
Yep.
and they bounced. So I'm taking the gigs and I'm leaving you with this sludge,
Yeah.
and the government bails GM out, but you can't bail out Flint.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, but now because it's bigger than Flint, we can find money. You can't roll, 200-300 million into getting them straight, but you can find $2 trillion, yesterday. Like it's just um that just it's more than not seeming right or being right. The onus now for Flint has been on entertainers and public figures to create cause-based initiatives for Flint. Where's the money they've raised?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
That
saying?
that's I mean that it makes you scratch your head. It definitely makes you scratch your head because, and when I say money, that this money was found just like that, I mean just like that. I mean this happened. I mean just I think 2 weeks ago, certain people were still saying this wasn't a big deal.
Hmm.
Some high ranking government officials were still saying, "Oh, it's no problem. We got it under control. It's fine. We'll get over it." And then all of a sudden, money's being pumped into the stock market by the trillions. And so, oh, we got checks we're going to send everybody. Just pressing the checks up, and the whole process of getting those checks out, you're probably looking at close to $1 billion with that. So there's a lot going on.
I think that's it's a great segue to our feature topic for tonight. As we think about these times, um, most people, when you talk to them, are talking about what's current, right? In a reactive state of mind. So I'm dealing with a change to my shopping patterns. I'm dealing with a change to my everyday work lifestyle because most people are working from home now.
Mhm.
Some people have even been furloughed. They're dealing with the fear. But times like this also create, in my mind, opportunities. So, tonight I wanted to pose the question to you: what does opportunity look like in somebody's mind versus what opportunity actually feels like when it arrives?
Mm. Wow, that's heavy. Um, I think an opportunity looks different than how it feels.
Hmm.
I think that in order to see an opportunity, you have to, one has to cultivate a vision, or they have to find their vision, or their focus, I guess is the word. So,
Hmm.
I have to have a goal. I have to have something that I want to achieve in life. If what I want to achieve is waking up in the morning, laying on the couch, watching TV all day long, there's an opportunity for that as long as I wake up. all I got to do is
Right.
all I got to do is wake up. It
Right.
minimalizes everything. You know what I mean? So okay, I've woke up. Okay, I'm up. Okay, the power's still on. Okay, okay, yeah, I can go lay on the couch and watch
Right.
TV. I've got that. And I see that opportunity. So, and then once I take that opportunity, that would feel good to you. Um, but I think seeing an opportunity starts with that. It starts with focus. So, what is your goal? What do you want out of life? What do you know, what, ultimately, what do you want in 5, 10 years? When we're young kids, everybody wants to be something: a football player, a doctor, a lawyer, basketball player, whatever the case may be. But somewhere between being 8 years old and saying, I want to be a football player, not many of us are willing to endure the feeling, that goes
Mhm.
into becoming a professional football player, or even a good college football player, or even a great high school football player.
Mhm.
So somewhere along the way, that feeling can change your mind. Mike Tyson has a famous saying that says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And and that's the and that's the truth. I mean,
Right.
that's what opportunity. Once you see an opportunity, then you have to be willing to fight to attain, to attain it. So it doesn't feel good. The achievement of that opportunity does not feel good, I don't think. But once you get there, the reward is great.
There was It's a guy I played ball with in high school, Freeman Basinger. And if I go back to, he was a year or two behind me, I think. But when I go back to high school and think about Freeman, then Freeman was a pretty small guy, slight frame,
Mhm.
and in my mind, not the person you would have presumed to ever make it to the league,
Mm.
right? But Freeman, with his 5'9" and some additional change stature, ended up in the NFL. I think he
Mm.
played for the Patriots, right? Along the way, I'm certain that the opportunity that we all had to show up, to practice, to prepare, to be ready for our chance encounters, um, to differentiate ourselves from the pack. Freeman had those opportunities. We had those opportunities. But Freeman did something different to realize his dreams. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and I'm certain that the same, because we lived around, during the same lifetime, there were elements of adversity that we all faced that were similar to his own challenges, but he kept moving forward with his focus in mind. So I say that to say I think you're right. I think catching a vision or an idea about where you really want to be is at the core of framing what opportunity looks like. I think people mistake daydreams,
Mhm.
and what they want to do with success with what they think an opportunity should look like.
Mhm.
But if in reality you have a very clear sense of what it is you want to do, who you are, then when a moment like this arrives, you could recognize, hey, this is my opportunity, right? Especially if you've been preparing all along. My boy Los P's father used to always say, Lieutenant Wolf Perry Sr., prepare for war in the time of peace,
Mm.
you know, and he meant by that, wherever you're trying to go, you need to be getting ready for it right now.
Right.
So there's somebody who's probably been baking for the church and baking for school functions and baking for all the kids' birthday parties. For that person, being at home right now could be optimal because they could be getting their bakery business started. There's somebody else who just has a knack. They're always called on for, helping somebody organize their house or help me clean out my garage. This could be an opportunity to get your organization business started and helping people who now have more foot traffic in their house with their immediate family and just needs a plan for order. There's all kinds of opportunities that are around if people have a mindset that says, I'm here. If I have my health and my strength, what can I leverage from this moment to get where I'm trying to go rather than just deal with the pain of right now? And I don't know if that's cultural, to be reactive and just focus on the pain, or if that's just circumstantial, you know,
I,
um, based on your station in life.
mhm. I think, and I wanted to ask you a question because you touched on it just now. You touched on mindset, and so you said it requires a mindset in order to move on an opportunity or to
Hmm.
move forward. So where does that mindset come from? Because some people, I mean, I think it's safe to say some people don't have an opportunistic mindset. So
Hmm.
so where does that come from? Is that something you're born with? Is that something that's taught to you? Can you teach it to someone? Do you just have it or you don't? I mean, what is that in your
So I
opinion?
think I think your my opinion is that it's twofold. First thing you do, if you're listening to Daptime now, you need to tune in every day. We'll help you get that mindset.
Mhm.
That's the first thing I would say.
Indeed.
But if you're someone who lives in a home or your day-to-day environment is negative and it didn't cultivate that, you didn't get that kind of nurturing in your upbringing, then you got to start looking around you for people doing the things, achieving the things that you want to do, whose gifts and interests align with yours. There's nothing wrong with drawing inspiration from things outside of yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um, I love parts, not all, of Guy Kawasaki's story, Rich Dad Poor Dad, because he talks about that. Um, getting the inspiration from his friend's father, who had a different approach to security in
Hmm.
life than his dad, and it was one that appealed to him, and so he took some lessons from that. But what I love most about recalling that is that I got that inspiration to even read Guy Kawasaki because of a friend I work with who had a different experience, and he shared his story with me. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? My dad was a 9 to 5. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I
Hmm.
got in the home I grew up with. My mom was working at for the school district, so it wasn't like they were we doing the stock market and we trying to make moves and be entrepreneurial. That's not what I was going to see. So as someone who knew inside of me I wanted more, I was entrepreneurial, but I didn't see it necessarily in an environment that I was growing up with how to attain it. And it took, recognizing somebody that I just was going to work with every day, sparking that. So I would say that the mindset shift comes from allowing people in your circle to become influencers to the way that you think for better.
Okay. So would you say that you said you had an entrepreneurial spirit, you just hadn't seen it, and maybe it just hadn't been brought out of you to that point. So,
Right.
do you believe that that's something that people inherently have? Do we inherently have these gifts, if you will, just kind of laying dormant in us if they're not being fed? Because let's be honest, we all know of situations where there are children who aren't getting much attention, and it's not that they come from bad homes. Sometimes the parents are working two and three jobs, and
Hmm.
it's hard. You know what I mean? It's tough.
Hmm.
So in a situation like that, where kids are forced to grow up kind of quick, they're forced to be independent, look after themselves, look after siblings, things of that nature. They're not getting that same kind of attention. They're not getting that same kind of schooling. Like you said, from your friend came from a different experience than even what you came from. So these gifts laying dormant in us, how do we get that out? Is it just about positioning ourselves to be around like-minded individuals? Or
I think it's a couple things, bro. I think that one part is, well, listen, I think that there's a mystique, for right or for wrong, around being an entrepreneur, right? I think
Mhm.
that people are like, oh, okay, you're an entrepreneur. That means to most people that you throw caution to the wind, that you get out there and you'll make something out of nothing, and that you'll hustle and you'll grind and you'll live the hard life, and there's a bunch of sacrifice. And it's all of that, right? But then you get to be top dog of, your lemonade stand, right? Whatever that is, that's going to
Right.
be your business. But the reality is, and this is what I'm learning, right? Because of all the things that I've been through, the spirit of an entrepreneur is at its core a hustle to survive and thrive, which
Mhm.
everybody has. Now, somebody might be the inspiration for an idea that becomes the business, but they don't get there by themselves. You know what I mean? There's no winner's circle for the person that started on their own and got there on their own, right? You,
Mhm.
you look at the biggest, most conspicuous examples from today. You take a Jay Z, but he got where he got with other people,
Right.
right? At different times, different partners, but it was a collaborative effort to get him from where he was to where he is. And in business, it's the same thing. And so I think, to answer your question, I think the key ingredients are there in all of us. Now, what role we play in a venture might be different. I think what we have to do. So you asked me, some of that earlier. I think the first thing is start allowing people in your circle who are doing good to be influential. The second is start taking inventory of what your gifts and your strengths are, right? Because you may not be the idea person.
Right.
Somebody else might have to be that for you. Or maybe you're the idea person, but you're not the execution person. You need somebody to help you. But I think the times dictate that if you want to go from relying on the plant to be open and there to be a spot for you on the line to check in and punch a time card every day, to being someone who has a little more control over their income and over their future and over how they live their life. You can do that if you want. This is and it doesn't feel like that, right? Because you wake up every day, if you turn on the news, you're not going to see that. They're not talking about it. You got to go search that out,
Mhm.
right? Check it out. So I was looking the other day at top 10 opportunities, just searching top 10 opportunities post corona. Um, and on the list, one of the things that I found was like manufacturing opportunities. And I'm assuming because people are reluctant not only to buy from China, but the process of getting whatever you purchase or try to import from China is now going to be more strict. So your ability to deliver on in a timely way is going to be harder, right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, man, okay, U.S. manufacturing. When I looked at the data around it, there are a ton of old plants and current plants in the manufacturing space still up and running. So people who have an idea, who want to start something, could easily partner with any one of these places and fill a void that's going to be there if that's a lane they want to be in. You
Mhm.
see what I'm saying? So it's not just a conspicuous, or I got to start something that everybody's going to see. Dry cleaning business may change. Imagine right now how many people aren't probably running to the dry cleaners. You could become the person that picks up people's clothes and takes them to the dry cleaner,
Right.
and then
Right.
pick them up from the dry cleaner and deliver 'em for a fee.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
think. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's just different. It doesn't have to look like someone else said it should look like. Like if you might have thought that opportunity was going to come when I save my money and all my things are lined up right, then I'm going to start my thing. But if you look at this crisis not as a crisis alone, but as an opportunity to redefine your future, it could be truly life changing.
Yeah. I definitely think attitude is the key, and so how you look at it is going to play a big part in how you react to it. Anything, you know what I mean? So it's like the glass half full, glass half empty thing. So I mean, some people are going to say, "Man, the glass is half empty, and this is it. I'm just going to drink this last little half glass of water, and I'll just lay down and die. That's it. I'll just dehydrate, and it's over." So, but then you have some people that are going to say, "Oh man, you're on a desert island, and half a glass of water. If I drink this will give me at least 20 more miles. So
Mhm.
I have hope to get to the next 20 miles, and who knows what I'm going to run into, or what opportunities are going to present themselves along the way." I think that's a big part of it. A big part of it, because I think a lot of people don't even realize it, but they've lost hope. I think is what it comes down to a lot of times. And once that happens, you just look for a place to be safe. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I just want to be secure. So okay, this job, if I show up, I can hit the clock, I can work, and I can leave.
Mhm.
There's some semblance of security to that for a lot of people. Um, what's not thought about is what happens when that job goes away. What happens when it goes
Right.
overseas and that job's not there anymore? What happens when Corona hits and you have to go home and we can't pay? We're not going to pay
Mhm.
you to sit at home. So I mean, there's all those things that people don't want to deal with. But I think, to your point, going back a little bit, self awareness is key as well. Because if
Mhm.
we spend, and that brings me to another point, an opportunity that I saw with Corona. With all of this time that we have, maybe this is time for us to deal with ourselves. And so
Mm.
as we deal with that's something that we don't do a lot. And I think it's subliminal. I think, a lot of people take advantage of meditation, and they have different things, different tactics that they use to center themselves. But I think overall as a nation, we're a busy nation, man. We got a lot going on. There's always a game on. There's always somewhere to go, something to do, a restaurant, a movie. There's always some form of entertainment. We're just always moving. And it's important to take that time for yourself and center yourself and and become self-aware. What am
Mhm.
I good at? What am I not too good at? What do I like? What do I really like? I know I say I like this and I think I like it, but do I really like that? You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
you got to take the time to know yourself. And I think with what's going on right now, we're being forced technically to deal with ourselves. I mean, if we look at it that way, that hence creates an opportunity to better yourself. You see what I'm
So
saying?
I think you're hitting on the other part of the opportunity, right? I think opportunity, we were looking at it in one lane, but you're right. Crisis, and maybe that's the other side of it, right? Crisis always brings opportunity.
Mm, yeah,
Maybe that's the
I
change.
agree.
Like most of the time, right? People think crisis always brings hard times, but more than hard times, it always brings opportunity. And I think you're hitting on what is maybe the most important opportunity that crisis brings. It brings an opportunity to stop and reflect, right? How do we get here? How do I deal with this? What is this doing to me
Yeah.
internally? You know, I've watched people become consumed with gloom.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like just, I mean, man, if it was honey, they're the bees.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like because they're on it like every day, and I'm like, man, how could you sponge that every day? How can
Right.
you take 5, 6, 8, 10 hours of doom and then think you're going to be able to say anything positive or think anything positive? You know, what can you give positive coming out of that? You just ate a bowl full of gloom and chased it down with doom. Like you're not, there's, you know what I'm saying?
You
But
are
I
what
think
you
you.
eat.
So I think the opportunity is you nailed it. I think is to step back and first figure out where am I? Where am I in my own personal journey,
Hmm.
and where do I go from here? Because you know, I mean, it doesn't make sense that you start a business if you're wrong on the
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah, I agree. And I think until you do that, I don't think you'll be able to clearly recognize opportunities
Hmm.
because you're masking you with things. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of like putting on the, I got a $400 bottle of cologne here, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it on and go out. And that works if you wash. You
Right.
have to take some time. You gotta take some time and you gotta wash and you gotta prepare the surface,
Right.
and then you
Right.
put on the cologne and then you walk out and then it works. But I think as long
Right.
as we're just masking, you know what I mean, just to put the cologne on
Mhm.
without doing any preparation work, you're just masking a problem. And so yeah, I think that's a big, big, big thing that if anybody could take away from, I hope they take that away because that's to me, that's the first step.
So how do you get there? How do you? I mean, because people fall into all kind of states with that, man. Like I've talked to people where they justify, well, I need to be up on the news. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about my parents who are elderly. And I get that. And so they're spoon feeding it, because the stats change regularly. They justify it that way. How do you start that journey to self recognition, self awareness, um, to get to at least a baseline to start building something positive? What in your mind is the first step?
I mean, this is going to sound corny and I really don't care, but first thing you have to do is admit you have a problem. You know what I mean? And so like, when I say a problem, I don't mean, I mean, I think a lot of people that do this, I know people that watch the news all day, every day, retired people that
Hmm.
watch the news all day. And I do not know how they do it. I swear I don't. Because it's just like you said, it's just a steady diet of stuff. I mean, look at it for 30 minutes, get the main talking points so you at least know what's going on in the world around you. But the rest of it, man, I don't know. So
Hmm.
my thing is you have to be able to say to yourself, not to me, not to you, not to anybody else, this is alone time with you. And you have to be able to say, you know what? This isn't working for me. I don't really feel my best right now. Something's
Hmm.
going on. You have to be able to have that conversation with yourself. And then if you can honestly have that conversation with yourself, Then from there, you can start looking at options to correct it, whether it be, whether it be therapy, whether it be meditation, whatever. Is a number of things that you could choose to start. But the first step to me is you have to be able to say, because there's a lot of people that, like I said, they'll watch the news all day, they'll run the streets all day because they don't want to deal with them. That's what a lot of it is. They can't sit still. They can't sit in
Hmm.
quiet. They can't, because they have to have something going on to distract them from them. And so you have to be able to recognize that and just say, this probably isn't normal. I don't know if it comes from inside. I mean, it definitely doesn't come from outside, because somebody telling you, hey, you need to calm down. If people are telling you that, what are you going to do? You're going to do more of the same thing you've been doing.
Right, right.
So, I mean, it doesn't come from that, but I think people just, I think it really comes from just spending time with yourself. And the more you spend time with yourself, and if you can say, you know, I need a change. If you can just admit it to yourself, you don't have to tell anybody else. From there, you can start looking at options. But until then, until you realize that, I might need to do something a little different, until you can say, I'm 35 years old, I might not need to go to the club every weekend. Until you can say that, then you probably don't see it as being a problem, an issue. And it's not, if that's what you want to do. But if there's other issues that require your attention, then maybe you need to take a look at that and make sure you're balanced.
I think what you're touching on. So I would frame it this way and say the first step is ask yourself, what is it that you're living for? Because I think if you saw whoever raised you that way, right? If it was grandma, if it was, Aunt Betty, or whoever, or
Right.
if it was a group home, whatever, you may not have seen the example, but if you're listening to this and you're saying, okay, how do I know if I have a problem? I would say, ask yourself, what is it that you're living for? And if your answer is something temporary,
Hmm.
then you need to start employing the tools, right?
Hmm.
I need to find somebody around me to help me frame something bigger than myself, because that's not going to sustain you over time. I'm living so I can buy a house. Okay, well, you're going to buy a house, then what?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm living so I can get married and have a family. Okay, you get married, you have a family. Then what? What kind of family do you want to have? I'm living for my kids. Well, your kids are going to be adults. Then what?
That's the funny thing. And that's what I was going to say. Like, a lot of people do that. And you talk about masking. A lot of people will mask a bad relationship by having kids. And they'll
Hmm.
say, they'll say, well, we'll just have kids. The kids come and it's great and everything. And this, they don't say, well, I just did this because we were having problems. Our marriage was on the rocks, whatever the case may be. They literally think, okay, we'll just pour some icing on the cake and everything will be cool. Well, that's great. But like you said, then the kids are gone one day. And then y'all sitting there looking at each other like, I can't stand this person. You know what I mean? So because you never dealt with the issue. So and it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away.
I-
So
you see, you just keep unfolding opportunities, man, with what you're saying. Because I think another opportunity that exists here, one is certainly we've uncovered, is there's opportunities to improve your career. If you have a sense of an idea of things you want to do, you can do that.
mhm,
Second, you have an opportunity to do the reflection and introspection, be honest with yourself, to start a journey so you can come out of this with more focus and more direction. But I think the third piece you just hit is there's an opportunity to be honest with those closest to you
mm,
about the things that need to be addressed but haven't been. And I mean, I've seen a bunch of memes and funny stuff on the gram or Facebook, Twitter, joking about being locked up in the house all day
mhm,
with, your wife and kids, your husband, your kids, and all of that. But underneath all those jokes, there are a bunch of stories for whom that's tough. There's a lot of parents who have spent more time with their children in the last 2 weeks than they have probably spent in the last 6 months to a year,
Mm, that's real.
right? Because of their jobs or because of how they spend time together as a family. I'm home, but I'm here to feed you and put you to bed, or I'm home to pick you up and take you over here. We're gonna drop you off. Me and your mama gonna do this. Me and your daddy gonna do this, or me and my girl. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And in terms of the time, really like sitting and knowing, can my child read? Can my child do math? Does my child really understand who they are in this family? What's their personality type? What are their interests?
Right.
What are their annoying habits? All those things, right? So there's
Right.
an
Right.
opportunity to start, once you get honest with yourself, to then be honest with those around you so that you can come out of this better with more clarity.
I like that. That because I think that that leads to more lasting resolve. I guess you could say. You know what I mean? Like if you take the time to do that, to deal with those closest around you, including you, now you've set the foundation. Now the
Mhm.
foundation is set for you to grow and build from there. And you can recognize those opportunities. Once you've done that and you fix that issue, now you recognize opportunities. You're more sensitive to opportunities when they present themselves.
That's the thing. So that to me is a pivotal statement, because the truth of the matter in all of this is that this is not the last opportunity like this that we'll have. It may not be another coronavirus, or it could be another coronavirus, but there will be another time in life where the circumstances are outside of our control and you're forced to live with discomfort. It's
Mm.
just that discomfort is being felt nationwide, worldwide, but it happens often. One of the funniest things I've seen, it is kind of funny. Um, it was like, you've been locked at home, you've, been policed, and all these other things that have happened that have been kind of like the negative parts of the shelter in place. And it's like, don't worry, you've only been black for 6 days,
Right,
kind of
right.
thing, right? But to me, what that kind of alludes to is there people feeling discomfort all the time,
Yeah.
right? It's just that you're in a bubble with it most of the time, right? Okay, my job is tripping, and so I got pressure, and I'm not sure if they're gonna lay people off in a month or not. So I'm trying to tighten things up at the house, but I'm not trying to worry my wife,
Mm.
and I'm not trying to put stress on my kids. My kids are tripping, but that's a different type. So in my bubble, I'm feeling discomfort, and if I haven't dealt with some of the things that we've discussed, I'm not looking at that as an opportunity for growth,
Right.
right? If you think about it, let's just take it this way: when you start a garden from scratch, when you go out to the back, you look at the dirt, you get your hoe, and you go to digging up the dirt. That's a violent process to the dirt. We don't think about the pain the dirt feels,
Mm. Mm.
right? You don't think about it in that regard, right?
Right.
You put your seed in the ground, you cover it up. You're not going to see nothing right away. You got to keep tending to it. But the initial part of the process is violent.
Mm.
If we are soil
Mm.
and hope and opportunities are within us to be planted, it's the same process.
Right.
It's
Right.
ripping up the ground. It's ripping up the bad stuff that's on top. It's tearing out weeds to make that ground fertile so that good seed can be planted in, and then that tended to. And that's what crisis is. That's what hard times are. It is that violent process of tilling the ground to put good seed in. And if we go through this to uncover that by asking the right questions, by looking and educating and informing ourselves with good information and sharing that with the people closest to us, we have gone through the planning process well. It's been planted well, and then you come out of it and you're just tending to it, then looking for it to
Mm.
be watered and going from there.
Absolutely. That's a great example. And I think with that said, it's probably a good time for us to segue to our newest segment.
This is Mama Always Said, which will be a recurring segment on Daptime. I would tell our listeners go to www.itsdaptime.com and subscribe to submit your own Mama Always Said sayings that stick with you, that have proved well to guide you. If we select your segment to be spoken up and highlighted in one of our shows, we will send you a special DAP packet. We will DAP you up virtually. I guarantee you will like what we put in that packet for you, just to show our appreciation. And so for this inaugural segment of Mom Always Said, I thought about this saying, Big Dame. Mom always said, your head is for more than just a hat rack. Your,
Yeah, I've heard that a
your
time or two.
head is for more than just a hat rack.
Oh yeah.
So I would like to throw to you so you can tell me of an example of someone who did not apply that the right way, who was a negative example.
Okay. So their head was just a hat rack, literally.
Exactly. It was clearly
Yeah.
just a hat rack for
They
them.
didn't use that thing inside of it. Okay, got you.
Right.
So it's funny. Corona seems to be one of the big topics. Of course, I'm in Virginia, so
Mhm.
Friday there was a shelter in place notice put out for everyone, and it kind of everybody kind of had started staying in, but this time the Governor Northam came on, and it was just kind of like, hey, stay in, no groups larger than 10. You can still go out to the parks and whatnot, but be mindful of gatherings and stay in for the most part. So in the midst of this pandemic, not an epidemic, pandemic, it's really big. Some people decided that they wanted to go to the beach this weekend and barbecue and
Get out of here.
just have a great time, enjoy nature. So, while healthcare workers and first responders are having the time of their life, working hours on and hours on end to preserve and save lives, some guys decided to just have a ball and enjoy their life. So I would say that those people were not using their head for anything more than a hat rack.
Right.
So they get no
They
dap. They get no dap today.
no dab.
None at all.
No dab. And in fact, let's make sure they get the first of the citations for breaking the laws. I want to actually throw Big Dap as a positive example of using your head for more than a hat rack.
Okay.
The world renowned great DJ D Nice, about, I guess it's probably now almost 2 weeks, he was sheltered in place, not able to get out, loves playing his music for people, decided to go on the gram on like a
Mhm.
Monday or Tuesday that week and just start DJing a live set. So my boy Troy's wife Kavina shoots me a text on Friday, like D Nice is going to be doing a set called Homeschool on Saturday, starting at 2. And I think I tuned in at 3:00. Bruh, do you know D Nice played for like another 7-8 hours after I tuned in?
Yeah.
Nothing but good music. And what tripped me out, man, is that like 100,000 people were on at one time. But you're talking about Elizabeth Warren, Oprah Winfrey, Taraji, Maxwell, just all kinds of people coming from all walks of life. Music.
Daptime was there also. Just wanted to.
Yes, Daptime was definitely in the building.
Yeah.
And but he kept saying, and he had at least 16 hat changes, making it clear he had the hat rack in place, but he was definitely using what was underneath the hat for more.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He was adorning the hat rack. Yeah.
he was killing his hat game. If we ever meet D Nice, I want to get with his hat game. His hat game is solid.
Yeah, he got it. He got it.
An arsenal. But I would say this. What got me more? So one is the because it was coming out of a good place and it was good for everybody. Obviously, the messages that were streaming during the live show were great and positive. And he went on to say that he had done that that whole week. But since then, I'm looking at Questlove, who's doing nightly shows now. I'm
Mm.
looking at other artists who are finding ways to engage audiences and create the same thing. And so he took the time to use his brain and his gifts to be more than just a stylish representation of who he is in the world. So big
Right
dap
on.
goes to D Nice.
Big dap. Right on.
As we round out this episode, brother, as always, I love talking to you, man. Appreciate our catching up. Give me something you want to leave with the people until we meet again.
It was a good conversation as usual. I
Mm-hmm.
think we left a lot of good nuggets on the table for everybody. I think I want to stick to the theme opportunities. That's what we talked about today. Opportunities always come in steps. So without that first step, there's no way to get to step 2, 3, 4, 5, and ultimately reach your goal of attaining an opportunity. Pay attention to that first step. Pay attention to yourself. Give yourself time. Spend time with yourself. Listen to yourself. Talk to yourself. Don't answer yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
talk to yourself. But spend time with yourself. Love yourself. Self-care is real, but it's about bettering yourself. Be honest with yourself. So that's what I want to say. That's what I want to leave with you. If you don't do anything else, be honest with yourself. And sky's the limit from there.
That's dope. Words of wisdom. I believe that is going to stick with us until we get together next time. We'll leave you with this. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show. You can send us any information with your feedback. We welcome that. Go to www.itsdaptime.com to do that. In the meantime, be sure to look in the mirror because there is your competition. Daptime, we out. Peace.